Can you put this in the sleeve? I'm
Yeah,
shaking too
yeah, I
much.
got you, I got you.
You shaking too much. I got you.
Sheesh.
Ian walked up and he was like, "You're about to pull the heat again." Oh my god! Holy
There it is. There it is.
I'm being very loud. What's up?
What a day out here at the booster box it was. It was a phenomenal day, and my buddy Nick just absolutely crushing it, pulling the Manga Soge King on their first pack. Their first pack of the 5 packs that were given to each entrant for the case tournament that we had today. And I mean, it was such an amazing event. I sadly had to run Zoro yet again because I did not get my OP03 or starter decks in time, but I do happen to be getting them Monday. So I know I talked about opening up half a case on Friday, I believe it was. But sadly, they just didn't come in time. UPS did me dirty. It's all right. But we have the we have those boxes coming in on Monday, so Monday night will be a real nice, like half a case opening stream, and I'll probably have some giveaways going on or something during that time, so be sure to check in and tune into the Twitch channel. But we have a really weird matchup here. I don't know much about Nami, so we play this match, and I want you to know my opponent Patrick here, very cool guy, runs a lot of trigger cards in this Nami deck. I don't have a lot of experience against it, so this was a learning lesson for me. I knew the card Kaya because I have played, Nami once or twice, but he'll go ahead and play that Kaya down. And yeah, I'm looking over at the trigger card, I'm like, all right, what does that do? What is the purpose? Blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And so there's going to be a few of the events that my opponent will use. I'm actually going to bring those cards up. So like, for example, I'll swing 8 here, and my opponent will take. He will use the trigger, and it's Giant Gavel, returning 1 character with a cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand. He brings back Kaya to his hand so that he can reuse that card in the following turn. Very, very solid trigger all in all, but he's obviously just going to play Kaya again, trying to get down as low as possible with the card count in his deck, and he'll swing 6 at life. Now, I do choose to take this. I'm totally fine with him, getting the, excuse me, getting the 1 card off the top of his deck for me to be able to just get 1, maybe 2 more resources. So I know that he's not going to swing at my life very much, but he does use Rubber Band of Doom here when I swing with Leader, and he ends up countering 2000 and then trashing the top card of his deck. Yet again, another, event card, and the trigger is drawing 1 card and trashing another. But we did get 5-drop Marco down, KOing the Kaya. I didn't want him to be able to bounce the card back over and over again. But he throws down Belmir here, and Belmir on KO is going to give my opponent, trashing 3 cards from the top of his deck. But if he does get a swing through with Belmir, then it's 7 cards from the top of his deck. And so I'm like, okay, all right. I have a Marco in hand. I don't really want to deal with, him being able to trash 7 cards from the top of his deck. So let's go with, playing down the Marco, even though we're not at 2 life. It's a blocker. It gets the job done. And I'm just asking him if I can just take a peek over some of these cards yet again, because realistically, there's so much for me to play around. And I don't know the deck very well, so it was kind of a learning lesson. But I go for 6 here, and he just uses the, the Giant Gavel yet again to go up and trash a card. He does take a life when I swing for 5. I'm going to rest 2, play Curly to Dawn. Unfortunately, we do brick here. I don't find anything, so that's a bit unfortunate. However, I did save enough for the Marco and 1 up for Gordon, or not Gordon, excuse me, guard point, I believe. But I learned the hard way that putting down the Marco isn't as easy as it seems in this matchup. And yeah, my opponent definitely shows me the ropes here and plays Nojiko. Nojiko, I wasn't even aware of this card. Returns 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less back to its hand for a cost of 2. And yeah, he just bounces that Marco back, slaps everything under Belmir. I don't have enough counter in hand to get out of this, so I have to take the life, and he does get to trash 7 cards here. This makes me a little nervous, but I do yet again still have the Marco in hand. I know that next turn I'm going up to 9 Dawn, and he trashes quite a bit of event cards there. Some really, really useful cards. You know, I got 5-drop Marco, as well as 4-drop, you know, blocker Marco. So if I can get rid of this Nojiko and he can't bounce that back to his hand and reuse it to, you know, get rid of my Marco blocker again, I think that we're in a pretty good spot. So I choose to just swing 5 at Belmir, and he does let it go, trashes 3 cards, yet again another 3 event cards, very useful cards for him. So I think that the Nami deck really does have to, you know, roll pretty well, but he gets a Desert Spada off life, you know, trashing 2 cards, or excuse me, drawing 2 cards and trashing 1. So yet again bringing, you know, that light or that deck count lower and lower. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of on a ticking time bomb, but I've got my opponent at 2 life. I've got solid, you know, board control right now, you know, and I think I can get a lot of swings in. You know, having the Zoro leader, at least in this matchup, feels like it's really bad for Nami. I feel like Nami has, you know, its work cut out for it between, you know, dealing with the amount of, you know, characters that Zoro can just flood the board with pretty quickly. And my opponent, I believe, is up to 10 Dawn here. Just kind of thinking about his turn, and he decides to just pass. Doesn't do anything. And I was like, pass? Like, you're not doing anything? He's like, yep. Pass. 10 Dawn active. So we are about to experience some triggers. That's about to... not triggers, some counters. And, I mean, potentially triggers, I guess, out of life. Now, I'm like, let me look at your trash again, dude, because there's so much to think about. And I'm like, all right, I really got to plan around, you know, certain cards being able to bounce back my Marco, potentially bounce back my Curly de Dawn. So I don't really care for the Marco now as a blocker since he doesn't have, like, Belmir or Zeph on board. So I will just use Marco first, swing for 7. He does take... and no trigger this time, so I was pretty happy about that. But we will just go ahead and slap 3 under Curly, swing 7 again. I'm just going to keep swinging those magical numbers and try and force out, you know, as many cards from my opponent's hand as possible. He uses Overheat here. He doesn't, you know, have anything to bounce back because it has to be an active character of 3 or less. So Curly de Dawn is rested, can't bounce it back. He doesn't have anything on his board that he's going to get usage out of that for. But yeah, I'm just going to slap 1 under a leader and swing 5. I think this is arguably a misplay because if he did take the life, he could have potentially gotten Deathwink, which would bounce back one of my Marcos. But he'll just go ahead and use Usopp's Rubber Band of Doom and then counter out for 1k on top of that again. And now we swing 9 with Marco. He does take, and I'll just swing 9 again. Hope that that gets the game. But he will just rest 3 and use the Deathwink. And he doesn't get to use the other part of Deathwink that would allow him to draw up 2 cards because he already had enough in hand. But still, you know, pretty dang good card. Especially when you get it out of life, bouncing back your opponent's characters, or even bouncing back like a Kaya or something like that, just so you can get some more card draw. Yeah, this is a terrifying deck to play against for me because I have no idea what to do. I'm just like, okay, I think I just swing, you know, just hope and swing, and yeah, you know, there's the Nojiko bouncing back the Marco, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think he just slaps 1 underneath Nami and goes for the Curly de Dawn for 6, but. I you know, I'm counting how much Dawn he has, you know, what are the potential events, and yeah, he's gonna go 6 at Curly. I'd rather just save the Curly because I don't need the counter for much else, and that way I can have you know, multiple swings the following turn and really seal going for the game. Now I know some people would say like, hey, just throw all your Dawn on leader and just swing at lead or swing for lead. I honestly probably could, and I would say most likely win, but I was a little nervous, honestly, playing this deck, not really knowing what to, you know, expect. So I just go ahead and decide to go for the Curly, And he will use Overheat and bounce that Nojiko back, getting a 1k counter. And yeah, I mean, we can just start swinging for 7 here, you know, with the Marcos, you know, swing for 7 with lead. And, you know, he's just going to continuously counter out until he doesn't have any more. And, you know, we're going to be able to take it there. But what a wild match. What a wild match. And he uses Love Beam here. Doesn't get to use the card draw effect because he's not at the required hand size. But, yeah, I think I'm just going to slap 1 underneath. This was a weird call, by the way. I slapped 1 underneath Marco. I don't know why. I was thinking that he had like a 3k counter card, but he ended up just having another Love Beam. And yeah, that gets to draw him a card. And then we're just going to slap the rest under Marco. Swing for, I think it's like 11 here. And he's not able to counter out, so we take the win. But, I mean, all in all, super interesting match. I thought it was probably really bad for him to be playing up against Zoro. I just think Zoro's probably a bad matchup for him. But also the time when he trashed a lot of those event cards, I think hurt him a lot. So you gotta get pretty lucky with those trashing of the cards. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and you guys know I'll see you in the next one, all right? Peace.